sequels are supposed to be bloodier. I almost said something else. Oops. Sequels are supposed to be bloodier, have more kills, and be just as good as the original. Does this one deliver? Fuck yes, it does. Scream 2 opens up with a banger scene in the theater. Wow. I don't even know where to start with this movie. Is it better than the original? No. Is it almost as good as the original? Yes. I think this is one of the best sequels out there. It's like the Child's Play 2 to the original, you know? They're just so good you can't really decide which one's better. I gotta say, they stepped it up a notch with the intensity, with Sidney Prescott's character. She gets a lot of development in here. You get new characters, which is pretty cool. You get some ones that were from the first that ended up surviving, that stick with this one. I feel like the killers in this one are a little weaker for the franchise, but I still feel like everything beforehand makes up for it. And that third act does too. So as long as there's a good third act and a good middle, I think the middle of this movie is actually probably the best. Towards the end of the movie is kind of where it gets a little bit of a mess, but it's a beautiful mess, if that makes sense. It's so good that you're just into the story, you're sucked into it, where you can't stop. Like, you're just all over the place. You're just like, oh my god, who's the killer? And I feel like they hid who the killer was in this one a lot better than they did in the first. So that you got to give them credit for. The kills are brutal. Some character dies in here. I don't want to spoil who that is, but that was an unexpected death. They still keep up with the meta-ness. I love how they are so they're not really making fun of, but you know, they're making fun of sequels and how they're supposed to be usually. And I just love that conversation that they had at the school. And there's a scene in the movie where all these kids are talking about sequels and how they have to up the first one. And they do that in here. They really do. They deliver with the kills. They deliver with everything in here. It's everything you want from a Scream sequel. That you didn't know you needed, in fact. It's fueled with blood. It's so good. I think it's well paced enough. I think Cotton and Sydney's rivalry, kind of, well, I don't really know if you'd call it like frenemies, if that makes sense. I think that's really well done in here. I think the acting is just as good. I think Sydney became a badass. She's like the Sarah Connor of this franchise. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of Gale Weathers. I think this is her best performance in here. I think her and Dewey are at their best in this movie. That's just me, personally. I think those two, when they're on screen in this movie, it is the main highlight of the movie. And that's actually shocking. I love Dewey, but I just don't... I never really liked Gale Weathers. I always thought she was kind of a prick. I guess that's like the point of her character, but still, I just never was into her. I did like her in Scream 6, too. I think that's one of her other best performances. But her and Dewey have such a good connection in here. It's so good, which makes it hurt even more if you guys know what happens in Scream 5. So, but yeah, this sequel does everything great, I think, that a sequel needed to be for the original movie. The killers, like I said, are a little weaker. Mickey and Billy Loomis's mom was kind of a random choice, but I kind of like that because it kind of gives the killer a motive for this one, which kind of makes sense. Because sometimes with killers in these franchises, sometimes the motive doesn't always make sense. I feel like somebody killing your son who's a psychopath, yeah, that's a pretty good motive to come back as a Ghostface. So I also like the chase scene, the car scene where like they're in the taxi or the back of the police car. I forget what it is. And they're like stuck there and like Ghostface is outside of the window. That scene was really, really intense, and they just know how to build it up. And I think this movie is actually probably, if not more intense than the original. That's just my opinion, but yeah, everything about this movie, it's great. It's just as good as the original. I think if you expected a sequel to this to be shit, it's anything but. So, I'm gonna give this a golden TV. I'm kind of leaning towards more of a bronze TV, but I feel like it's also a classic. So I feel like this also has to kind of go up on a golden TV scale. I think it has good enough quality to be a golden TV. So, anyway, guys, that's my Scream 2 review, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.